Things keep getting worse for the Boston Celtics. After last night's embarrassing loss with no LeBron James and no Anthony Davis, the Los Angeles Lakers are going after my favorite ex-Celtic in Marcus Smart, and many arch rivals are wanting him on their roster for their championship run. And with the Boston Celtics also pursuing a deep playoff run, could the Celtics match up with the Lakers, possibly with Marcus Smart on their roster? That would be utterly awful for the Boston Celtics, going up against one of their favorite teammates and favorite players on their biggest arch rival. We'll be discussing all of that, looking at Kristaps Porzingis also speaking out after the Boston Celtics loss, and also be looking at potential all-star replacements with Derrick White and Kristaps Porzingis. All of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. But before we dive into this Boston Celtics content and coverage today, 78% of our viewers are not subscribed. I would greatly appreciate it if you guys hit that big old red subscribe button and join the Celtics Digest family. If you want to stay up to date on daily Boston Celtics content and coverage, hit that subscribe button, as you definitely will not regret it. But let's dive into the news at hand today, so make sure to grab a snack, as today's episode is going to be a jam-packed one as we dive into this Celtics content and coverage. The first thing we're going to be breaking down is an ex-Celtic fan favorite to go to an arch rival. And yes, we mentioned this in the intro, Marcus Smart is on the trade block, and he possibly could be going to two of the Celtics arch rivals, and one of them being the Los Angeles Lakers specifically. We want to look at this tweet from NBA Central. There's a report that the Lakers and Milwaukee Bucks are interested in Marcus Smart. Now, Marcus Smart this season has had a little bit of injury history, hasn't been fully healthy for this Memphis Grizzlies team, but as everybody knows, he is one of the best defenders at the guard position in the NBA, recently winning Defensive Player of the Year not too long ago for the Boston Celtics, and being an impact player on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, his offensive mindset isn't the greatest. He sometimes chucks some bad shots, but if he is inquired to be the number one team lockdown defender and to guard the best scorer on the opposing team, he will do that job successfully and draw foul calls successfully for that team as well. And with the Los Angeles Lakers, this would be atrocious, as the Celtics are their biggest arch rival in NBA history. And if they did match in the finals, this would be terrible news for the Boston Celtics, as Marcus Smart knows all these players on the Celtics so well to guard them. He would be able to outperform that with any other team that he's on, either that's the Milwaukee Bucks or if that's the Los Angeles Lakers. But we're going to be diving in and looking at more of this, because with several clubs, including the Bucks and Lakers, sources saying have phoned Memphis about attaining defensive stalwart Marcus Smart, the Grizzlies have shut down any overtures for the veteran. So luckily, the Grizzlies are shutting things down. They want to keep Marcus Smart. They traded for him this offseason, thinking he'd be a vital piece to their championship run in Memphis this season, but since they've done with a plethora of injuries on their own with John Morant, Steven Adams, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson being out for a while, no Brandon Clark to the half of the year, this Grizzlies team wants to keep Marcus Smart for the foreseeable future possibly, but could he possibly be moved if a team like the Lakers or the Bucks isn't able to do another deal with another team and increases their offer to the Memphis Grizzlies? For sure, because I think the Grizzlies are at a point where if they could move off of one or two of these guys to lessen their salary cap, it could help them out as they have younger pieces, and they'll have a top pick next year that they could possibly trade in a deal to acquire another superstar in Memphis. Next, we're going to be diving in, looking at Kristaps Porzingis and how he vocalized after the loss last night. So if you guys don't remember or did not watch, the Celtics unfortunately lost an embarrassing game to the Los Angeles Lakers with no LeBron and no Anthony Davis. Austin Reeves came out shooting on fire. Celtics could not defend him at all. We're not running any traps to stop him. We're not hunting him at all. Jackson Hayes looked like a phenomenal beast when he's been a borderline cut player for the Los Angeles Lakers. The Celtics were just very, very dysfunctional last night, and it was not their greatest work. We got some tweets from Kristaps Porzingis to highlight that. So Kristaps came out and said, this is a quote from Jay King, saying, "This is the NBA. This is almost like a script. You're going to lose this type of game, and fans are going to think it's the end of the world. And we lost to the Lakers without AD and LeBron, like end of the season, boom, done. But it's just a loss. It's just a loss which we have to learn from, and which we will. We're going to get a couple days rest, which I think a lot of guys, especially, will be really useful, and we bounce back hungry, full of energy." And I totally agree. And if we want to look at this tweet from Jayson Tatum as well, it says that it's just a bad week of work. So ultimately, the Boston Celtics, I agree with Kristaps Porzingis. I agree with Jayson Tatum. It's all right to be frustrated with these losses. It's not that big of a deal. The Celtics are not, not a championship contending team. It's not oh my God, we need to react about this and freak out about it. But it was an embarrassing loss, and the Celtics need to work on those types of things. Like Kristaps Porzingis was saying, it is the NBA. They did lose without AD and LeBron, but it's not over. They just got to get back together, get ready for this full energy, and want to work to win. There's still plenty of the season left. The Celtics are still atop of the Eastern Conference, the best team in the Eastern Conference as well, and the best team in the NBA. They definitely deserve their respect still. They just need to fine-tune and work on some things, especially defending at the three-point line, as the Los Angeles Lakers were excelling from there, and the Celtics were just not stepping up and helping guard them. Sometimes, yes, Austin Reeves was hitting a ridiculous shot in a guy's face, but there were multiple times where the Celtics needed to offensive rebound very, very well and get those defensive rebounds where the Lakers were just grabbing them over the Boston Celtics, and they weren't guarding the three-point line. Like Jayson Tatum said as well, it is just a bad week of work. Unfortunately for the Boston Celtics, this was one of their worst weeks of the season. We saw at the beginning of the week on last Saturday dealing with the Los Angeles Clippers, where they had an unfortunate blowout loss. Then they had their games in their back-to-back versus the New Orleans Pelicans and the Indiana Pacers, which versus the New Orleans Pelicans, they were down for most of the game and had to rally a fourth quarter comeback. And versus the Indiana Pacers, they had a fantastic first half, slowly collapsed in the third quarter, but able to work that win back in the fourth. So ultimately, not the greatest week for Celtics basketball, but like we mentioned, the Boston Celtics, the best team in the NBA, best team in the Eastern Conference, there's nothing to worry about. This team will still be ready to go and making that playoff push. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below of any tweaks or trades that the Celtics need to make ahead of this deadline. And lastly, the last topic that we're going to be diving into on this episode here of Celtics Digest is the Celtics possibly securing a third or fourth All-Star. Now, as we all know, Jayson Tatum was voted as an All-Star starter, being the third highest vote getter out of totality of all All-Star voting, behind the two captains in Giannis Antetokounmpo and LeBron James. And last night, Jaylen Brown was also named an All-Star reserve as well, being the first name announced from the Eastern Conference All-Star reserve list, which was absolutely fantastic. Even though it was done in no particular order, Jaylen Brown being selected is fantastic. He's having a great season with the Boston Celtics and improving on his stats and numbers, and he's proving to be a guy of the face of the future for this team. Third All-Star appearance for Jaylen Brown. We are ecstatic as Celtics fans as well. He definitely deserves it, as he's one of the best two-way wings in the NBA. But if we want to keep looking and discussing these All-Star lists, there were two guys that were named to the All-Star list that have some injuries in the Eastern Conference. And we're going to be looking at a tweet from Chris Mannix that kind of dives into that. So if you guys do not know, Julius Randle suffered an injury and will be out for the next 2 to 3 weeks with a shoulder injury. So there may be a replacement for Julius Randle ahead of the All-Star game. And the four replacements that are named are Miles Turner, Derrick White, Trae Young, and Kristaps Porzingis. And if we also want to look, we can also see from Chris Mannix, and of course Joel Embiid, who appears unlikely to play due to an injury, will also not likely be playing in this game for the All-Star game for the Philadelphia 76ers. So with having two open roster spots for this contest, the Celtics could possibly send their third and fourth All-Star and Derrick White and Kristaps Porzingis in there. We want to look back at the list and looking at the four possible guys that are being considered. Miles Turner is a great all-around center on a contending team in Indiana. But to be honest, I think he has the lowest credit of stature of this list out of all four of these players. Yes, he's playing phenomenal. Yes, he deserves to be an All-Star, but some of these guys are having better numbers than him. Derrick White, we all know, is being proclaimed as an All-Star in the Boston Celtics. He has the stats and the numbers to back it up. It's just that there are other more dynamic guards that got voted in. Guys like Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton got in. Trae Young is also on this list. Obviously, he's a great guy and has a lot of great stats with the Atlanta Hawks. They just value winning as well. And with the Atlanta Hawks not having a great winning record, it is looking like Trae Young isn't on the list. And Kristaps Porzingis is also there as well. Paolo Banchero and Bam Adebayo, Julius Randle all made it in the front court over Kristaps Porzingis. Might be due to the injury history with Kristaps Porzingis this season, might end not playing in all of these games, especially with all these other teams in the Eastern Conference still being flourishing as well. But personally, I think the Boston Celtics will be able to secure one of these two guys into that lineup. Out of those four guys, I would personally rank Miles Turner the worst out of all of them, as I think Trae Young, Derrick White, and Kristaps Porzingis do deserve it a little bit more, even though Miles Turner does deserve it, but I think he's kind of the outlier on that list. Therefore, with a nice team of Randle and Embiid being out, you're probably going to need another front court depth guy. Even though they already have Bam and Paolo and Tatum and Brown, you're going to need another front court guy in that lineup. So picking a guy probably like Kristaps Porzingis might be a likelihood for this all-star team. And then if we want to look with another spot, probably taking a guard, I would probably say Trae Young. Even though I do want Derrick White and I do think he's deserving to make an all-star list, I just think that the value of him not being a high-profile player in the NBA isn't going to profile him and project him into this all-star lineup. I think there'll be a little bit of people outraging and freaking out, even though I do think, as a Boston Celtic fan, he definitely deserves it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Who do you guys think is going to make it as the other two East All-Star reserves? Personally, I'm going to go Kristaps Porzingis and Trae Young. I think that both of those guys will get it. And I do think that the Celtics will secure a third All-Star in this All-Star game and be the only team to have 3 All-Stars from their team represented. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.